Welcome to another episode of Breakaway from the Rat Race. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Matt Raad. Matt found a unique way to make money by buying and selling businesses. Together with his wife, Liz, they became expert at investing in websites, turning duds into valuable assets that generate cash flow and build wealth. They've been at this game for a while, I think like 27 years. And they are now teaching others how to do the same and make a good living from it. Today, Matt will share his insight into his journey as a successful entrepreneur and investor, buying their first businesses and expanding into multi-million dollars mergers and acquisition, later on transitioning into tech and the digital world. So he and Liz have been at it for 27 years, so tons of experience there. And I'm so glad that Matt is going to be able to share with us. So Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me on, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So let's get started. So I think one of the big things, so how did you get started into this? Because it's not obvious. I'm looking at website and stuff like that, but it's not obvious to say, I'm going to take this website, I'm going to make it valuable. If everybody could do this, it'd be so easy. So, but you found a way to do that. So tell us more about it.
Yeah. I think the where it all started was that maybe listeners can hear where I'm Australian, we're from Australia, and where I grew up on quite remote rural farms. And as a kid, I always had a dream of financial independence. We grew up with hardly any money, like a lot of people did back in the 70s. And it always fascinated me, this idea of being able to create money out of thin air. So as a kid, I used to trade lots of toys and things like that. And it's funny, my son does the same now as well. And I think that just carried through into later in life. And what happened was, Liz and I met at university studying zoology, would you believe? So we're experts in red kangaroos, but we realized very quickly.
Very, very niche.
Very, very niche, Eric. But it is an important part of the story because Liz, my wife, she's from the country as well. And we both met at uni and we thought, we'll go and live in the country together and, it's going to be happy and everything. But the problem is when you're a zoologist, you don't get paid much. And you can't live in the country, which is a really interesting situation. You've got to live in the city, you got to work in labs and things like that. And so we realized very quickly we need to get into a business. We remember, like, we were reading books like Think and Grow Rich and Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, and we wanted that financial independence. And maybe I'm guessing like a lot of your listeners here, and we realized for us it was going to be business. And we got into our first business, which was a little tiny manufacturing business that we met this guy in our country town, and he was retiring, and we bought it with the help of family, but it was run down and it was about to go bankrupt, which we didn't know. And apparently our accountant couldn't figure that out either. So we learned some pretty harsh lessons real quick. It was pretty scary times. And we just basically had to teach ourselves everything we could about business. So we read every book under the sun and we just totally self-taught, figured out how to turn that business around. And we were hooked though. Like honestly, from even day one, within 24 hours of owning that business, we were hooked on it. We absolutely loved it. It really appealed to I guess we were young and we liked the adventure of it because it was nearly going bankrupt. We realized we got to roll up our sleeves and get in and do some serious work here. And it was just very addictive. So our specialty ever since then is turning around businesses real quick. That's what we got really good at and had a lot of fun. And then later on, we did that for about 10 to 15 years and we're buying and selling lots of bricks and mortar businesses. And as a young entrepreneur, these are businesses that involve physical inventory. So, they're typically manufacturing or wholesale import businesses.
What and that ties up all of one of the business or the first business you bought.
So the first business was we made spare parts for outdoor power equipment. So, for lawnmowers and brush cutters and chainsaws. So we were making spare parts for those. And we were and we got to the point where we were exporting that to America. We had clients in America, in Germany, and we were exporting it to all the big manufacturers. So it went well for us, but it took 10 years. It was very difficult because you're constantly putting all the profits of the business back into the business. and you're tying up all your money in a warehouse. And so what happened was we were always looking for this perfect business model. We wanted something that gave us financial independence and time independence. And so manufacturing businesses gave us time independence. We didn't have to work. Once we got it going, you could just work like 6 months of the year, and that gave us time to buy other businesses. But we were always in debt to the bank.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had a major capital, like a cash flow problem, because all the money just had to keep going back into a inventory. So then we discovered this thing called online businesses back before the GFC in around 2008. And we suddenly realized
the great financial crisis.
That's right. And we started, and it was actually before. Yeah. So it's actually before then. We realized with online businesses, particularly ones that just have advertising on them, we don't have to put money into physical inventory. So, and because we were so used to manufacturing and wholesale import, we were very comfortable working across borders, like, in America and stuff like that. And we loved America. We knew it was the biggest market in the world. And I think one of the biggest attractions to us with online business was, wow, we can be here in Australia, in our Jimmy Jams at night, working with people in America. There are no borders anymore. And literally when we go to bed, when we wake up in the morning, there'll be money in the bank account. And so we suddenly had free and unfettered access to the entire American market. So we started buying and selling websites that were based in America, and they're just online, and they don't deal with any end customers or anything like that. We didn't have to talk to anyone. These are advertising websites. They're just called content sites, and we make money purely off advertising. And so for us here in Australia, it was a game changer. And Liz was the one that actually said to me, hey, Matt, why don't we do what we've always done for the last 15 years? Why don't we just start buying and selling these things and just start privately approaching people? Just email them. We don't need to go and see them. We can email other website owners and see if they want to sell. We're experts at it. We're really good at this. And so we just started doing it, and it worked really, really well, way better than bricks and mortar businesses, because these websites, they don't have any physical inventory. And so it meant the cash flow returns were extraordinarily high. And so we could just keep flipping them or rolling the money into new deals. And that's pretty much, in a nutshell, that's our story. We just replicated, but except it was the style of websites that we buy. To this day, we still buy the same kinds of websites. That's what freed up all the cash flow for us.
Interesting. So it's not manufacturing. It's not selling. It's not e-commerce either.
No.
It's not
none of them.
FBAs, none
of that.
None of that. It's just advertising website. There's content in there somehow, and that attracts people. That attracts people naturally because they have high SEOs or something like that, and then there's advertising on it, and people click on it. Is that right?
Perfect. Yep. Wow. That's it. And Eric, they're actually really boring looking websites. So they might be about. What we try to find is what we call passion sites by people, and really niche. You know how you jokingly said at the beginning of the interview, like quite niche. Studying kangaroos. Now, unfortunately, we always joke about this. Unfortunately, that's just a bit too niche. It turns out there's not enough people interested in red kangaroos for us to have a website in that space. But anything a little bit bigger than that niche. So we would typically buy sites about gardening, crafting, how to play golf. We've owned websites about that. So passion, or how to play musical instruments, how to learn a new language, anything and like sewing, knitting, anything in where people are passionate, and you have what's called bloggers blogging about it. And what happens is you think there's a lot of people out there that start up these passion sites, and after 2 or 3 years, they get bored. They're not making much money, so they sell them off. And what we've learned to do is, like your listeners and like yourself, we've learned to see the value, the inherent value that's sitting in those websites, and we fix them up, we flip them, because typically people get bored, so they just neglect them. So the golden ones for us are what we call fallen angels, where people have just neglected them. And then we come along and we say, hey, notice you haven't done much on your website. Would you be interested in selling it? We're a cash buyer. And sometimes we're buying sites just we're not talking lots of money. Sometimes it's just $5,000. Obviously they can go, they can like might be $5,000 or $10,000 just for these little websites,
Wow.
but we can fix them up and get them monetized better. And typically the way we make money on them is just literally by putting ads on them or affiliate offers. So which is get a commission if someone, so say we've got a golfing site.
Let's not go too far now. So all right, let's see for our listeners here. So you find a couple of websites, let's say golf and
golf,
something like that. Do you have to know golf or tennis?
No, not at all. No, we hire experts, writers, and we do keyword research. It's called keyword research, which is really easy now.
But these are blogging websites, meaning that the person that owned that website before was blogging about it, or it was kind of like a community of golfers that would blog about it and
good question. It can be both, but typically it's a blogger. I do. The best ones are the ones that are run by a blogger. Yes.
Okay. Yep. Interesting. So then they would do that, and then you would see they're tired, and then you say, okay, I can buy your website. So where do you find these websites that people are willing to go? How do you find those gems in the rough?
Yeah. In the old days, it was a lot of virtual door knocking, and that's how we used to buy bricks and mortar businesses as well. We're really good at it. We're very patient. It's a long, slow game, but you just send out lots of emails and we look around on the internet. So we literally, in the evenings, we've got a young family. When the kids are asleep or whatever, we would be looking through, both Liz and I would be searching through Google. We'd pick a niche each and we just go through and email every single website. And it's really good networking, but it's a long, long way. So back in those days when we first started, there was no brokers or marketplaces for buying and selling websites. These days, I'm glad to say it's a lot easier. There are really, really good website brokers out there. And now these are like, they do 9-figure deals, website deals in the hundreds of millions. And so places like Flipper, if you want to start out, we recommend everyone look at Flipper because you can buy really small websites. Okay. But there's Flipper, Empire Flippers, FE International, Quiet Light, and all the brokers are the best brokers in the world. Of course, are in the US. That's where it's all. And it's a very established marketplace now. So there's full on, it's like business brokers. So you can speak to the brokers and they can step you through the website deals.
Now, I'm afraid that a lot of listeners are going to say, well, this is not for me. Like, I'm not a tech person. I don't know how to write. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know SEO. You're talking about affiliate advertising and stuff like that. I don't know anything about that. So I think if they're still listening to us, tell us, do you need any particular skills to do this, or can anybody that has a little bit knows how to browse the internet? Can anybody actually go and be successful at this?
I would say, if you do a bit of training, this is what we specialize in. So we because we're so passionate about teaching total beginners, because when we first got online, we had all the same problems. I really disliked computers. I was a complete technophobe. Liz was better than me, but we're totally self-taught online. And so to this day, we love teaching beginners. So in our business, eBusiness Institute, that's what we're super proud of. Okay. We teach typically 40 to 50 to 60-year-olds who have not grown up with computers. Wow. And we teach them how to do exactly what we've done. So we take them right back to the foundations. And I would say 100%, if you learn what you're doing, we have most of our clients are complete beginners online. It's very rare that we have anyone who actually has technical skills. And obviously it takes a little bit longer to learn a few technical things, but these days it's a lot easier than it was when we first started online. Okay. Now the main skill that we get people to learn actually is how to build a website in WordPress, which is a really, really enormously useful skill to have for the future anyway. And so if you can get over that hurdle, you're fine. And that's what we're really good at. And basically, like you said, Eric, it's really good.
You could also get people to actually.
Yes.
It's easy to find people that WordPress is a very well-known platform. So it's really no trouble finding someone to help.
And that was my next point. So what we do is we just get people to the point where they understand how it all works, and then you outsource everything. Literally, we hire staff all the time off of platforms like Upwork or Freelancer. It's a lot easier, and we teach people how to do that. But our thing is, and our specialty is teaching people, like especially technophobes like us, who were scared of the computers and understanding how to
with
do
red
things.
kangaroos.
Yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah. We had no idea how to program but you don't need to do any programming or anything like that. The main thing, what we do is actually, and our clients feed this back to us, once they get into it, like we've got a lot of, professionals like lawyers, a lot of defense people, a lot of people transitioning out of careers.
yeah.
We completely reskill them in this thing. And what they end up saying to us after a year or two of training with us, and they do it full time now, and they'll be earning 6 or 7 figures. They all say, we love the creativity of it, because what it really boils down to is the creativity in the research of the topics. So you buy a golfing site that you know nothing about golf, but it's so much fun doing what we call the keyword research. And like you said, the main skill is actually, after the technical side, is literally just being able to browse the internet and research the marketplace and figure out, well, what sort of content should we put onto this website? That's pretty much what it boils down to. So as a result, what happens is it becomes a very creative process, which sounds odd. People think, oh, it's all technical, building websites. It's not. That's one little part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where you make most money is the creativity of finding the good deals and figuring out the good niches and the content.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I've identified my website. I say, okay, I want to do go golf. I guess we have to find you find a theme first. You say, I'm going to look at golf, or I'm going to look at tennis, or you just look in general, and then
we look in general.
Oh, you look in general. Okay. So
yep. So it's all, Liz teaches this to everyone. She says, everyone wants to go into niches that they're experts in, and all things being equal, that's a great thing to do. If you happen to know about golf, then yes, you should look in golf. But Liz it's funny. My wife, Liz, she's very impatient, and she's just shown me the money. So she looks for the deals. So good web. We don't care what. We don't care what niche it is.
Okay, so that's good. So you may be interested in 5-10 different things, something that you're not really know anything about. Like, I don't know much about golf, but I know golf is very popular. So I could look at golf websites, and then so I look at a broker. You mentioned like Flipper, and then I just went there and identify maybe a couple of websites that I'm interested in. And then I guess I would browse the website and say, I can really add value to this, or I can. So what's the next step? Like, I'm kind of paralleling what you're doing with house flipping. So we're looking at
very similar,
looking at houses, and we say, well, yeah, we can fix the kitchen, we can fix the this, we can fix that, but we don't want to have a foundation problem. We don't want to have a house that doesn't have a roof, or that was fire damage. So how do you differentiate these the different types of assets that you would be interested in?
It's virtually the same process or thinking, and a lot of our clients are similar to like yours. A lot of them are real estate investors, and they're doing this for the cash flows. And it's the same level of thinking, and it revolves around doing due diligence and understanding how a website works and how you can fix it up. And we definitely are not looking for major restructures or rebuilds of these websites. All we're looking for is simple, quick renovations, and then we build it over time though after that. And all we're doing is we do an initial light tidy up of the website, make it look a bit better, and we fix up the conversions, and then we just look for ways to better monetize the website. Like, we put on better offers, affiliate offers, or better ads, and then we look to build the traffic. And that's basically the 3 main things that we do to renovate a site. And so, don't get me wrong, if you listen to this, I make it sound easy, but this takes, like, you've got to learn how to do this. But in our due diligence, what we're checking is, can we do all those 3 things? That's basically the main thing we're checking. Is there any fundamental problems with the site?
Like, I need to change the color, the layout of the website a little bit and stuff like that.
And the main thing that we're checking, Eric, really, in terms of like you said, it's a really good point. We don't want to buy, something that's got no roof or whatever. So we need to check the foundations of the website, which is, does it have traffic? That's probably the number one thing, is, does it have traffic, which means that people visiting it regularly? And does it actually make the profit that it's claiming? Now, luckily, that is actually really, really easy to do due diligence on once you know what you're doing. Now, I want to stress, if you're learning this, just be careful. Don't rush out there and buy a big website because it says it's making $10,000 a month or whatever. You've got to understand how to do due diligence on that. So we get people to learn this skill on little tiny websites, like buy a site under $2,000 just to practice this, or buy a site under $5,000 just to practice it first. But every single thing, this is what we discovered when we got online. If you're not technical, you probably don't realize the extent of this, but every single thing online is tracked, every click.
Yeah.
So luckily, in what we do in the website world, particularly if you buy a website through a broker, brokers now get their sellers to install a program called Google Analytics onto the website. And what that does, that Google Analytics is a free program. Anyone can get access to it as long as you get permission off the owner of the website. So if it's being sold, what happens is every single visit to the website is tracked, every click, and you can see all the details. And so all you do is you ask for a live login to that account, that Google Analytics account, and you can see absolutely everything. It's mind-blowing compared to what we used to do with bricks and mortar businesses in due diligence. It's really, it is just mind-blowing how much detail you can get on a website when you get access to Google Analytics. And that's the main tool that we're using to find the foundation. So it's, once you know what you're doing, it's very, very accurate. And it is a matured marketplace. And that's why I also would recommend, if you're a beginner, you always buy your website through a broker at first, because there's a bit of vetting has occurred anyway.
So your criteria, so you want to have something that when you're trying to acquisition criteria here, you want to look at things that you need some cosmetic changes. There's some good content. There's already people that are going to that website. How many people, what kind of traffic are you looking for? What kind of revenue are you looking for?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When you start out on these smaller sites, there'll be hardly any traffic, because traffic is worth a lot of money now, because paid advertising, we do no paid advertising. It's all relies on organic traffic, but traffic is worth a fortune. So when you're first starting out on these small sites, it might be less than 1,000 visitors a month. But once you've learned how to do it, you want to be getting into sites that have thousands of visitors to tens of thousands of visitors a month, because then you have a money-making machine on autopilot 24/7. So these people coming into these websites, you might get 50,000 people a month interested. I can share an example. We've got a client now, really successful young couple of ours. They do this full time. One of the sites they've bought recently is a gardening site, and it was run down. It was here in Australia. It's about Australian native gardens. And they followed our process, and they found the guy had neglected it, and they bought it for $400. Wow. And now there wasn't many visitors, but he'd had it for 10 years and he had all this really good content on there, but he just hadn't managed to get it working right, and he didn't get it going in the rankings. We're coming to spring right now here in Australia, and I think when I spoke to them the other week, they were telling me it's already up to 80,000 visitors a month.
Wow.
And so it had hardly any when they first bought it. They bought it about 2 years ago. But more impressively than that, Eric, they've put ads on it and affiliate offers, and they're now making $4,000 a month off that website. That costs them $400, and that's off around 80,000 visitors, and it will spike. They think it's going to go to over 100,000, and they want to get it to making around $5,000 a month.
Yeah,
and and that's people that are really passionate about, they want to look up, how do I grow native Australian shrubs, or how do I fix up my native Australian gardening? And while they're there, they might click on an ad, and so Nathan and Alexa make money off that.
Yeah. So how do you estimate the value of a website? If I look at real estate, single family rentals, I have comparable sales. I know that bedroom, 2 bath, 1,000 square foot is worth this much in this neighborhood. How do you do that with website?
It's actually, it is comparable sales, because there's a good market now. But what it's comparable to what we call the multiplier of profit. So websites, particularly the sites we buy, because there's not much expenses. So a lot of the, when you see the sales figures, you always look at the actual profit figures, and it works basically just like a traditional bricks and mortar business. So bricks and mortar businesses sell on a 1 to 3 times the yearly profit. Websites are exactly the same now, anywhere from 1 to 3 to 4 times. So if a website makes $100,000 a year, so well, let's use Nathan Alexa's website. If that site gets to, we talk everything in monthly, because things move so quickly, especially when you renovate a website. So they're making $5,000 a month, which is what, $50,000 to $60,000 a year if you're conservative. Let's say it's $50,000 a year. So if they're making $50,000 a year, this is net profit off that website. It's worth anywhere from 1 to 3 times that. Now, it's a very automated website. It's got a lot of traffic. So what can bump up the valuation if there's lots of traffic like theirs? So I would say their website's worth 3 times that. So it's probably worth around $150,000 because it makes $50,000 a year. Now that website cost them $400. That's not a bad flip.
Yeah, that's not a bad flip. How much effort did they have to put into that website?
Yeah, so that's a really good question with those guys. Now, they've been training with us for a long time, and they do this full time, and they're actually part-time coaches of ours as well. But they're literally, at the moment, they're living in Vietnam. They're a young couple. They do the laptop lifestyle thing. So when they're traveling, their main role is what I said earlier in this interview. They love the creativity bit, what's called keyword research. So they have a team of writers now, probably 3 or 4 part-time writers who are all like in the Philippines, or they're in different parts of the world. They're all virtual staff, and they might have an editor or 2. And basically what Nathan and Alexa do is, and this is typical, this is what we do, it's what everyone does. Basically what they do is they just tell the writers, we want 10 articles on this particular topic. And what Nathan and Alexa's job is to figure out the topic and the keywords. Oh, wow. And so basically that's most of their time. And then they manage and oversee. They're kind of like project managers, when you're renovating a set of units or whatever. It's the same thing, because they've got a portfolio of websites that don't just have that one site, and good number of sites.
With ChatGPT, you just basically say, here, write me an article.
Yeah. It's ChatGPT is an interesting one. It helps outline everything, ChatGPT, so it's sped that part up, but you still spend a fair bit of time doing the creative. But what the good thing is with websites, it's done once, done forever. So Nathan and Alexa can spend a week planning out all these articles, and then they can disappear for 2 or 3 weeks. So it's not a 9 to 5 thing. This is very time independent, what we do. So it's not like ideally, if you can turn up when you're renovating a site and you really want to go big with it, it's good if you can spend a couple of hours a day on it, but you don't have to. It's not 9 to 5. So really the main work is you hand it off to your team to go and implement all the work. So your job is a project manager.
So how does the handoff, there's so many questions, and we're close on time, but the handoff, how does the handoff actually occur? What happens to the content? Like when I'm buying the website, am I also buying the content, even though the previous buyer actually wrote that content? So
that's the main asset that you're buying. So that's a really good question. So basically, buying websites is like virtual property, like online property. So literally you've got the domain name. So that's kind of like the address, in the street address of the property. And then you've got all the assets that come with the website, which is mainly the content. So they're all in files that sit on a server somewhere, and that's like the actual house that sits on the address. So that's the website, how it looks and how it's built together. So there's 2 parts in the transfer. You get the domain name transferred to you, and then you get all the files that come over, and it all happens. It's pretty seamless. The brokers basically handle it for you these days if you're doing bigger deals. We teach people how to do it. That's probably the most technical part of the whole thing that you do, but it's actually really simple these days. But really, all you got to know is, as a beginner, like I wouldn't know how to transfer a website. I don't do it. I get a techie to do it. But basically, you just get handed all the files. It just literally transfers over. You can do it in 30 seconds. Sometimes you just change passwords. So you just get handed. It's like getting handed the keys to the house. You're getting handed the keys to the website.
Okay. Oh, wow. So that's very good. Any but obviously we're kind of like, if people want to reach out to you, I know you have tell us about your program, your training program.
Yep.
You're going to tell people, as you mentioned earlier, that you're taking people that don't know anything about this. They've never, they may not even know about how a website works.
Yep.
And you're going to train them all the way into being able to look at a website, estimate the value of the website, and then build it up and build a team around it to really turn the duds into a valuable asset. And that's part of your program. So tell us about that training program that you have, and what's the best way for people to reach out to you.
So whilst we run this from Australia, we have clients from all around the world, and particularly from the US. And because we mainly buy US-based websites, and so we do on our website right now, where if you go to the ebusinessinstitute.com.au, or you can Google my name, Matt Raad, and you'll just find me. Go to our main website, which is ebusinessinstitute.com.au. And on there, we've got a free masterclass. So if anyone's interested in this, I would recommend you start out small and do our masterclass at least, because it's a 90-minute class about, it goes into more detail, like goes into the exact strategy that we use. We show lots of examples of the actual sites that we're buying and our clients are buying, and how we do it, how we value them, how we renovate them. And basically you can, if you're interested in this, you can learn it all, the basics there. And then if you want to get started, our golden rule is you always buy a website first under $2,000 or under $5,000 to learn this. And so we have a training program that teaches you exactly how to do that, and then take it to 6 figures, and you can step the deals up from there. So we're all about, because most of our clients are beginners, we want people to start out quite small and just learn the technical side first. Once your confidence gets there, then you start buying much bigger websites. But you don't even have to be always buying big websites. But basically go to our ebusinessinstitute.com.au, and there's lots of stories on there, and there's that free masterclass. And that's enough to get any of your listeners going with this strategy and understand if it's something they really want to pursue further.
Yeah.
And then reach out and have a chat to us.
I have a couple of websites that I could do something with that right now are just.
Absolutely, Eric. Yeah.
Good names too. Like I bought like years ago, and I said, "Oh yeah."
Well, if they're good domain names, there's a lot of value just in the domain name. So notice how I said that it's like real estate. So the domain name is like the address. And if you've got a really good address, that can be alone. So that's one of the things we look for. So a really good example is Nathan Alexa again with that gardening site. It happened to be a really good domain name, exactly like yourself. The guy he'd had it for 10 years. He'd been sitting on it. He just didn't do anything with it. Yeah. And so they come along and now making $5,000 a month. That's net off an asset. So maybe for you, if you've got good domain names, and anyone listening, like if you like Eric, you could even just do our masterclass and understand how the main thing is just understanding how all this works. That's what we mainly find. We open people's eyes to a way of making money they never thought of, that is literally sitting in front of you every day. And if you're sitting on an aged domain name, honestly, the process is reinvigorate it, put new content on there, build it up, find out what people want, because really what we're trying to do online with our websites is just help people. We're trying to give them answer questions. So if it's around a particular topic, we just put useful articles on there that people are going to look up. When they land on there, if they're engaged, that's how we make money, because then they'll click on an ad or do so. You can monetize it easily later on. The main thing is reinvigorate the site, get people coming back. And you can be surprised, Eric, the age domains now have suddenly become very, very valuable because they're not making them anymore. You can't easily get .coms.
Exactly. So .coms and
and in a very quick way, one of the world's top brokers told us this. He said, if anyone's sitting on old age domain names, what you do is if you can put some good content on them, they're suddenly worth a lot more money. So that's the other way, because you can do the domaining thing, which is kind of like trading fine wine. We don't do that. We more build content. And I like what that broker said. He's right. I mean, he's at the forefront. He knows, he sells them all the time. And he said, if you've got time up your sleeve, spend 6 months to a year just putting some content on it, and then that rare domain name will be worth even more money.
Yeah, that sounds very good. I'm very excited. And I think I'm gonna try to find some help to turn these websites around and make some money. That sounds
awesome.
So Matt, thank
you.
It's
easier than you think.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Unfortunately, we had to cut it short. I had way more questions, and it's very exciting. I think this is it's a kind of like a new area, I think, and it's not really new, but it's really something that people should pay attention to. And I think a lot of people would be very interested in that lifestyle and that way of investing. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I'll put the link in the description, so you can go and look at Matt's website and start flipping some websites. So Matt, thank you.
Thanks so much for having me on, Eric. It was awesome.
Thank you for listening to Break Away from the Rat Race with your host, Eric Martel. If you want to share your story and experience with our listeners, please message us on Facebook at Break Away from the Rat Race. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast on iTunes.